sleep again. I can see it in my dreams behind. All the faces have the same meaning. Going down the darkened road, something I can't believe it. I wasn't looking for trouble, I found a way to win. I'm touching the sky as I'm standing on the street that's burning. I said that I wanted more, I said that I can't lose. I said I'm looking for a place where other people can be winners too. I'm talking to you, 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 I'm talking to you.
Preview
I'm
there.
searching for a peaceful
It's gonna
mind.
play again.
I've been walking in my sleep again. I can see in my dreams behind. Oh,
That didn't go so well, did it? Yeah, so that was a little preview there of what we're going to be talking about shortly, which is the album that This Is Number One had in the pipeline for several months, working with 11 different bands, 11 different songs, a really amazing 3D set of visuals designed like a NFT collection with rarity traits and everything. Really amazing project. So we're looking forward to sort of talking more about that and introducing it. But welcome back to another week of the Ordinals show, chatting about on-chain music, what's going on now, what's the future hold, trying to uncover whatever we can about what this technology is going to bring to musicians and people who consume music in the near future. But just for now, let's listen to a little bit more on-chain music. This is inscription 972, ordinal number 972. Some very early music in Bitcoin land.
Girls want to for your money. Girls want to for your money.
Hey, I'm after a drum machine.
Yes, sir, we have drum machines. Which one would you like?
The 808.
The 808. Which one is that?
The one in the corner, the Pepe 808.
This one?
Yeah, that one. Bring it over here.
Okay, here you go, sir.
This isn't a real Pepe 808, is it?
No, sir, it's a top quality fake.
Okay, good. Can I turn it on?
Yes, turn it on, sir.
The bass drum. The claps. The snare. Hi-hats. Oh, this is nice.
You want to buy it, sir?
Yeah, how much?
Let me ask my manager. Hey, Vincent, how much for the Pepe 808?
It's 2 Bitcoin for 100 billion Pepe cash.
Okay, sorry, I'm back, sir. It's 100 million Pepe cash or 2 Bitcoin.
Okay, I'll take it. I'm paying Pepe cash.
Here you go, sir. Thank you for shopping for Pawn Shop. Have a good day.
This Pepe 808 is dead. Pepe 808. Pepe 808. Pepe 808. So fake.
He was like, yo, do you know how happy I was for you to see you just shoot up to the top of the Bitcoin conversation? He was like, yo, you literally did the impossible.
We really gotta figure out a better way to budget this family's future.
Bitcoin.
What?
I don't know.
It's just a tool, isn't
Bitcoin.
There will only ever be 21 million Bitcoin mined.
Sound money. I'm opening doors for all colors, you know what I mean? For all opinions, for all ideologies.
It's an alien life form.
Bitcoin.
This money is 1 million. 1 million. 1 million.
Bitcoin.
You get the bag and fumble it. I get the bag and flip it and tumble it.
This is John McAfee, and you, lucky people, are listening to Guns and Money, Bitcoin.
All right, so I think we're. I can see the crew gathering in the Discord there, so I think we're. Can you guys hear me okay in there? Let's see if my complex.
I can hear you. I can hear you.
I can
Not
hear
too
you.
loud. I can hear you.
Not too loud. That's probably just me not being close enough to my microphone, perhaps.
Hold on. It might even be me actually. Hold on. Oh no, it's me. Yeah, it's me. I didn't have the bloody loudspeaker on. All right, I'll put my headphones on in a second. Give me a minute.
Let me just switch over to the Discord here if I can. There we go. Here we are. So yes, we've got Dash from This Is Number One, and Nat Atlas as well, who's been involved. We've all been working together on several sort of music related projects in the space over the last couple of years, but one particular, which is what I kind of opened the show with, as a little preview of an album that we've been working on. Well, I guess it must be longer than a year now. I think I've got used to saying several months, but actually, what really slowed us down was really when ordinals came along. We really, it sort of got us all questioning kind of what was happening with data, you know, with NFTs, how data was being stored. It sort of, you know, made us realize when you've got these sort of cross domains, you're obviously your weakest link with the data is the issue. And we were instantly taken by the idea of being able to distribute music within you know, the Bitcoin chain, you know, to kind of create players, and the ability to distribute within Bitcoin wallets without having to take users beyond Bitcoin. That's the biggest marketplace. You know, that's kind of, you know, that's the biggest market we could hope for. It's the least sort of onboarding for your fans. It's the ability to have full self-sovereign you know, peer-to-peer relationships between musicians and their fans, and all via Bitcoin. But obviously there's these data constraints that you have, which is, you know, the high cost. So we've had to be working on ways to kind of, you know, bridge these gaps between the data and the convenience of being able to distribute in Bitcoin. And so this album, it's got these amazing graphics. It's got, you know, that were created by a 3D artist that we've been working with. I think he's now Tyler Triptamine in Australia, and he's worked on things like Spider-Man and The Lord of the Rings, and now he's been working on this album with us. So we've got these very high resolution, amazing 3D graphics. And I'm just trying to work out how to get Dash in here, because I seem to have... Here we go. That's what I needed to do. Okay, Dash, I've just made you a speaker. I think you may need to go out and come back in again for that to kind of work. Yeah, so, hey, you're back. I think you should be able to speak now. Oh, Nat, you're able to speak, aren't you? I've heard you. Yes. Hey, Dash. Hello. Yeah, so I don't know if you want to say anything else about the your thoughts on the kind of the journey of the album, because I was just saying it must be longer than a year now, because it was ordinals that kind of got us to sort of sit back and go, oh, hang on, you know, what should we be doing here? And then I guess we nearly actually launched it in the summer, wasn't it, when we were going to go to Portugal? Had some plans to launch it, but I guess was that when we were kind of
yeah, I mean, I think the kind of the journey goes back a couple of years, to be honest. I think we first started kind of the idea around a #1 album, of getting a kind of group of artists to kind of showcase really what kind of blockchain technology could do for them and their fans. And we wanted to kind of introduce them to Bitcoin via Stacks. And as you said, we kind of got these amazing kind of visuals to go with each track. So we kind of like, the visuals had a theme, but then the tracks were all individual from 11 different artists. And I think we also saw the opportunity in doing that to, you know, one of our biggest missions, I guess, since day one has kind of been trying to bring people into the space. And we kind of thought bringing 11 artists would then bring some of their fan base into the space as well. And then we thought it'd be great for the people that we were, you know, working with and the kind of Stacks community as a whole to have some really, you know, kind of good high quality music and musicians coming into the space as well. So it was a kind of, you know, took about a year actually to get the album together. And then we kind of had it all ready at the beginning of last year, which is, like you said, is when ordinals came along. And, you know, I think if we're all kind of being fair and putting our hands up, you know, at the time itself, Stacks was also going through a bit of a transition, and so we were trying to work out the kind of optimum way to make sure kind of benefited everyone being involved, because when you want these musicians to come into Web3 and come into kind of blockchain technology, you want to showcase what is good and how it works and what they benefit and the kind of different revenue streams and things like that. And I guess at the time it was, we were just trying to figure out what to do, and then ordinals came along and it kind of threw everything up in the air, and we couldn't go with what we'd created because of the kind of restrictions with ordinals. And then we've kind of spent the last year trying to work out a kind of, I guess, a smooth but clever, interesting, innovative way to kind of bring it all together, perhaps crossing chains, using the technology, the good aspects of all the different layer 1, layer 2, everything that's out there. We did try and bring it to market via a couple of different avenues, and that was a big part of that, which we really appreciate. But yeah, I guess now we're at that point again where, through what you've been building and what you've been grinding and working hard on over the last kind of most of last year, it's like, how can we now bring it all back together again, including the artwork, the visuals, all the tracks, and the technology?
Yeah, I think the thing is to sort of differentiate is looking for, what we've kind of done with this album is we have built some NFT like kind of traits and things into these, but really what we're trying to sort of find our way to is where the real utility is for all musicians to utilize this new technology, not only just for distribution, in a peer-to-peer way, to get rid of those middlemen, but also to get rid of the middlemen that control the data and access to data, to put full sovereign power into the hands of a musician in terms of distribution and also royalties and attribution. And this is one of the things that I think we knew that Bitcoin, or just the blockchain, I remember very early on when Dash and I imported the UK's, it was like the first two-way crypto ATM machine back in 2014. It was, nobody knew what this stuff, we didn't really know what this stuff was. We just both had a feeling about Bitcoin, that there was something big in this. And I remember Dash saying to me one day, someone had said to him, it's not Bitcoin, it's the blockchain. Just to kind of give us context about what we're dealing with here, that yes, Bitcoin's very special and is going to do amazing things, and probably is going to end up being this single source of truth for us all. But beyond that, there was this thing called the blockchain that we needed to be very aware of and conscious of, and try to understand the process and what was the blockchain, what does this mean. And I think back then, just when we started considering the blockchain, we were both considering like what does this mean for other ledgers, like the ledgers that the performing rights organizations attempt to administer, that record really, really important things, but that just end up just being costs to deal with a broken system that's not fit for purpose, costs that are just mounting and always passed on to the musicians, to the artists themselves, almost negating, the costs, almost just negating the it's almost like self-cancelling, isn't it? And this is the thing we've got to really avoid. This is the danger for the music industry now, is that certainly at a grassroots level, this is the best opportunity we've had to really try to reshape the landscape, so that reshape the landscape so that certainly new and young musicians have the opportunity to take control of their careers early on, and not have to just deal with this system and be told how to run their business effectively. I guess that's what it comes down to, is that as a musician, it's running a business. You're just told, you can't do this on your own. You need all these different people, and these people need people, and their people need people, and all these people need paying, and at the end of it, you'll get something. Is that your experience, Nat?
You know what? That's exactly what it's like, right? That's exactly what it's like, and I still spend time now, trying to speak with other musicians as much as I can to kind of say to them, okay, well, look, you have this kind of way of going around things, and everyone's still kind of. It depends, obviously, how old the musician is as well, right? And what era of music they're kind of used to operating in, I would say, because a lot of guys are still about, a lot of girls are still about that are pretty much operating on this premise that, you have to like do everything that you used to do in the 90s still. Get yourself a street team, get a plugger, so on and so forth. Like, spend like $5,000 on one single before you even get it off the computer. So yeah, I mean, it is been a bit of a uphill struggle to kind of get some people around to the kind of flow of what's going on today. And I mean, even this is the same, even dealing with some artists who are, more into the modern age, like younger artists that are dealing with platforms like the Spotify's and the Apple Music and so on and so forth. And I think really and truthfully, it comes down to being like a combination of different methods that people should try. And it is, I've said this before in like some Twitter spaces, that it's really just what works for you, innit? It's what works for you. And I think what is a lot different from when, like, I first started making music till now is like, obviously, like back when Cubase was on our Atari, when Cubase was on the ST. And we were using reel to reels and DAT machines and stuff. Like everything's changed a lot in terms of access, right? But then what's kind of also happened is we went through this period, I'd say, like kind of like after the I'd say probably around the late 90s, where it became more and more accessible to make music. But then what you have then is kind of like a drop off in, I won't say production quality, but I'd say more finished music quality or more polished music quality. And that is because everybody's got access to be able to make music. So nobody, in the late 90s, early 2000s, people were just like throwing stuff out in it, right? Like no mastering, nothing, right? And just, kind of hitting and hoping. And then later on in the 2000s, what you get is this kind of crazy rise of everything that is outside of your control. So everything that is not within that home studio or bedroom or garage or whatever, everything above that now becomes like this super expense. Like it's like a crazy videos are crazy expensive still, getting mastering engineers or even a day in the studio becomes kind of like super expensive. Then it kind of really flattens out and becomes like super cheap to be able to go to the studio. Mastering's always an expense. Like your mastering expense never going to go away. But like now what you have is better mediums to do stuff outside of just the music creation process. So again, your marketing, your distribution, everything else is now at the hands of the artist. And there's still lots of artists that don't understand that. There's loads of them that don't understand that. And they're making loads of music, good music, but they just don't really understand where they go, or they're just kind of following, where they go next.
A lot of it is about education, isn't it? It's about education,
yeah.
And sort of getting that across to people to say that this is your opportunity that you need to take. You need to grab this and you need to do something with it. And a lot of that, I think, for a lot of people is like a technical bridge or a chasm that sometimes they feel like they're not capable of crossing, when actually I think in some ways it's a lot simpler than a lot of people might think to embrace this technology and to start making it work for you straight away. But there are real world sides to this that no amount of sovereignty is going to help. If anything, it's going to take it away, like you said, sometimes to do with pluggers or promotion. You do need to have a team, but just to have an efficient system where you have the money for that team, you know, the money to, as a musician, decide who is worth spending your money on, not to just have that all happen before you even get a look in at that money that you created.
Yeah, exactly. And a lot of the time it's before you even get a look into to actually getting anything anywhere. I think this is what is the major transformational change here, is that, you know, you being able to, I mean, you could do everything from your house right now, or from your phone even, right? And from a tablet, right? So you could put everything together, put it out, and then you've got this you know, this wonderful sea of other musicians that are everywhere, that you know, it's kind of almost become a budget game again, where, like, you know, before labels used to compete for budget and stuff like that, right? You know, with budgets, but you know, now it's like the artists are competing with budget. So hey, if I've got like 10K to put together my single release or whatever, like I'm going to be infinitely more likely to recoup on any of that money, you know, compared to somebody who maybe you know, has spent that 10K over time, yeah, on an abundance of music. So so I think what this technology has kind of done, for me anyway, and what I see that it's done, it's enabled the person to just go straight to market, and also just be able to receive that remuneration and build it up over time. Now, obviously, the average artist will say, well, I can do that with Spotify and I can do that with Apple Music. But, like, let's be honest, like, if if you speak to most artists now, what they would tell you is that it's like kind of almost a numbers game. Like, they're putting out consistent music all the time, to be able to keep those numbers up and be able to keep those earnings up. Whereas what I've seen in the blockchain or crypto or Bitcoin side of things is people can do less is more. People can put out a very small project, you know, and only service a couple of hundred people, or maybe 1,000 people, and then put themselves in a position to be able to create more, or do better, or facilitate their releases better. Sorry. So, you know, do a video. Some people haven't got enough money to do a video at the start, and I've seen people literally just like release a tune, you know, whether it's as an NFT or if it's on a V4V system, and have enough sats later to go and to go and make a video for it, right? So,
well, this is like, you remember Arno, when Arno Carstens did one of his albums, and he put out a collection. This was very early in Stack's sort of network times, but he put out some sort of collection, which then I remember speaking to him during a chat a few weeks later, and he was like, you know, I've literally funded the album with the money from the collection. And that was, you know, he hadn't made money beyond that really, but that was what was most important, is that he'd found a way to generate the funds to sort of move on to the next part. And that's the sort of hard bits, building up the momentum, choosing your, you know, using your resources and your time wisely to, you know, never be looking too far ahead, to try to generate what you need for that next step as you go, you know, and start to broaden your horizons as you're going, get more users. You know, sometimes this can take, you know, years to kind of build this up, but it's all part of the process. It's just a slow thing you've got to kind of evolve, building a community. You know, I think that people see a lot too much of this, these projects that sort of explode overnight, make 10 million and then disappear, and leave a load of people wondering what's going on. And it's like, I think when people slow down a little bit, less of the degen mentality and more of the...
Yeah, I mean, I think when it comes to music, you know, I would like to think that people, you know, approach it differently. I think, you know, the kind of beauty and I guess the kind of major pluses for kind of Web3 and how you can kind of do things within your art and how you distribute it, and then what value you can add to it over time, and the way that an artist can then engage with those people. You know, even if you start with a small collection, a release of a single, and 100 people buy it, then you've got that kind of vested interest from those people to see what you're doing next. And so from there, you can just build upon that, but you can actually talk to them, you can show them, you can play them something, you can get their feedback. You know, you can token gate things so they become having access to backstage information, and I think that's, you know, you don't have that with Spotify so much, or you know, these other kind of channels for music players, but then social media, you know, again, it doesn't really have that same kind of way of really connecting with people. And I think that was one of the things that we really wanted to show artists, was that, you know, doing it this way, you kind of take it all back into your own hands and you can rebuild it and build something really powerful, you know, because having, you know, a really strong community that really loves what you create, you know, that can go a long way.
And having the tools beyond what people are used to, like being Twitter and Instagram, you know, all of these things, you know, all of this can be taken out of the mix. This technology allows, you know, multiple connections. It's very much like, you know, we're entering the era of the metaverse. And when you think of the metaverse, you think of everything being interconnected. And it covers every aspect of everything. It's like the relationship changes, the way that you might interact financially changes. Both of these aspects already existing in quite complex modern systems that have X number of different people along the way, just basically taking a cut, when now all of this can be sort of taken care of by the musician in terms of, well, yeah, like I said, kind of all of it, the relationship, the way that they communicate, the way that musicians might reward their listeners, the way albums can algorithmically interact with tickets and private content, and even like messaging, giving out rewards, all these things that people sort of look at almost like a Discord, I guess, in a way. It's like all of this becomes possible between a musician and fans with this technology, but with a financial element tied in. So with micropayments, you know, if you've got a big enough audience and you've got enough value, there'll be ways for you both to for it to be a win-win, you know, and for musicians to not have to pay, you know, X number of additional kind of hangers-on for what they can just do themselves between them and their fans. It's just to have the option. It's just, that's not an option nowadays. Some people will like that and they'll want to keep working with the majority of the people they're working with. I'm sure they would feel differently about the royalties side of things, and how those splits are made and how they are traced and tracked and all of that sort of stuff. But you know, for the majority of people, I think that it's just good in every way to start to look at what you can benefit from by using this technology.
Yeah, and I think, you know, it's kind of quite mad to kind of think that, you know, I remember, you know, us talking kind of 5-6 years ago about wanting to, you know, have music publishing on the blockchain, and, you know, it kind of felt like it was possible and doable, and then, you know, it kind of, the reality of it and kind of the systems that you would have to break in order to kind of change that system and create a new system, then that just feels like almost impossible. And then the technology itself, although it's kind of all there to be done, it also feels like we're not there yet as well. And so it's like we're in this kind of incredible place, but it does take people kind of taking a bit of a plunge and kind of going, I'm just going to do it and try it and kind of be the first ones to get in there and start learning as they go, to then showcase that to other people. Because, you know, it's not all easy. It's not like a straightforward thing. You can't just set up a, you know, I don't know, a kind of a Spotify account and it's all done and you just feed the tracks through. It's like there's a bit more to it still. There are hurdles for people that aren't aware of kind of this technology. So it feels like we're a lot further than we were those years ago, but at the same time, it still feels like there's a bit of a kind of some breakthroughs kind of need to happen to simplify things for musicians and artists to go, oh yeah, I'll just give that a go, and it doesn't feel like a big challenge to them.
I mean, I think this is where we've been heading with ordinals, but because of the data and the cost, this is where it just became prohibitive. But this is where things like stacks come in. You know, I recently created something called S ordinals, and I have put the data on Arweave. So I've got a music video, I've got a single, and these are then connected to this S ordinal, which is then inscribed on the stacks chain. So on the stacks chain, there is an inscription in a stacks transaction that has the data, which is kind of saying, okay, here's a player, it's going to pull a video, it's going to pull a song, and these are the things that are on Arweave, which is also permanent data storage, sitting in an address that's guaranteed to exist in perpetuity. So these two things, as long as there is this does still involve two nodes rather than one. You've got a Bitcoin node and an Arweave node connected, or a stacks node and an Arweave node, I should say. But so that's the only connection that these two data points need to actually exist permanently. And now I think the cost of each player, I think I could get 1,000 players into a single stacks inscription, which I think I probably paid 2 or 3 stacks for, maybe $5 or something in total, to create 1,000 players that I can now distribute. Now this still involves the stacks network and not the Bitcoin network, but of course when we're talking, you know, the real utility for musicians here is not going to be anything to do with anything costing you $5 to send. You know, this is where the utility of Bitcoin kind of breaks down, because if I'm going to have to spend $5 to distribute an album that I just want to sell for, you know, $9, it's really not gonna do you any better than the current system. And so really what we have to do is we have to give you all the powers to do this stuff, but then you've got to have that cost has to be down. If you're going to produce 10,000 albums with media players and communication hubs between your between you and your fans, then obviously the lower the cost in the beginning is the more empowerment to the musician. So if we can get those costs down and yet have a big enough market that has access to leather wallets or hero wallets, where they have access to not just Bitcoin but also stacks addresses, then we can start to distribute via stacks. And then if we take it one step further and get to sort of middle of this year, when we expect SBTC to be about, now we have an instant bridge, like a financial bridge. So the Bitcoin wallet and a Bitcoin transaction can trigger events on the stacks chain. So now we can almost go back to this original model that we're saying would be perfect, which is never having to get your fans to look into anything beyond Bitcoin. Do you have a Bitcoin wallet? Yes, great, let's do business. That's kind of what we want from ordinals, but I just don't think that's going to be practical. However, with SBTC, we can maybe move back to that, where it's like, okay, I want to hear your music. I have Bitcoin. I have a Bitcoin wallet. Hopefully, this is, you know, I have a hero wallet or a leather wallet. Okay, this is fine. So now you can send a transaction in Bitcoin, and it is going to pay someone in Bitcoin, and it's also going to trigger some smart contract stuff on the stacks network. And now, because you're using a hero or leather wallet, your Bitcoin, you know, your same private key maintains a Bitcoin wallet as well as a stacks wallet. And now if you just look at that stacks wallet, you'll see that your Bitcoin transaction has caused an incoming NFT to land in your stacks wallet, being you know, being like a ordinal, like these files that I'm talking about, that very easily, you know, translate from you know, data in permanent storage on Arweave through to data that exists as a bridge on stacks and is permanently mined on the stacks chain. And and triggered by a Bitcoin transaction. Could be triggered by an ordinal, but again, I feel like even in this example I'm giving you, that Bitcoin transaction to buy that wallet, if you want to do it with Bitcoin, is going to it's going to cost you dearly. So you're going to want to do this with SBTC, and you're probably not going to want to have this put in your Bitcoin wallet because of just the expense of moving it or doing anything with it. It's once I think you're sold on the SBTC solution and using, a smart contract chain to do these things, I think for a lot of people, it will just end up becoming a hassle, and they'll wonder why they put things into Bitcoin wallets. But
And then,
sorry, go on.
Sorry, just going a step even further than that as well. Obviously, just over the past 2 days, fees seem to be kind of normalizing on L1. So now for the listener, it would still be expensive, right? But for the artist themselves, it would be much cheaper to get their inscription game on, right? And I can see that slowly it's been coming down, right, over the last week or so. But even with big mints happening, it's been pretty average. Well, it's pretty. What is average anymore, right? But
yeah, I mean, I've been really thrown a couple of times, and I've looked at it and I've gone, look, my computer's making an error here. It's just adding an extra digit there, and then after a little while, you're like, this is for real.
Last week it was like 300 sats of V-Byte. Obviously, we talked about this earlier on in the year where last year where we saw 500 sats, 600, 800 sats. 1,200 sats of V-Byte. It's been crazy, right?
Insane.
It's been mad. But yeah, literally today, which was quite surprising, is that today, for the very first time in at least 2 months, because I have a transaction that's that old, in at least 2 months, we were down to 24, I think, sats per V-Byte earlier on, right? So that's amazing to see that people are still inscribing, and all the regular people minting BRC20s and everything else was going on. But because of this, these recursives and people doing the recursive inscriptions, it seems as though that has brought things down. HTML is the main thing being inscribed right about now. So so it does seem like inscription price are going down. But obviously, we know that if we were to see that fee spike again in the future, it'll make it pretty unprofitable for even a musician to go and say, hey, I'm going to inscribe this high quality, Dolby Atmos album. It's not going to work, right?
My very first inscription was HTML, and I think I always felt like this was the way forward. And actually, when I did that, data really wasn't a problem. In fact, people would really moan if data got above 10. Everyone was like, "Oh God, it's up 10. Wait till the middle of the night. It'll be back down at 2 or 1 again." And it was it just did that. Those, the idea of it getting up to the hundreds or even thousands was just, unheard of. But here we are, and so it's we have to have some answers. And actually, getting player size down so small. The player size that I've got the ordinal players down to, that will link to Arweave. I have got one working version which does play audio and a video. In fact, I could probably show it here if I've got it in the browser. Let's have a look.
And just to note on that as well, because I know obviously you've been talking about Arweave, and I know we've had this conversation about the storage, the battle of the storage, right, over the last couple of sessions at least, right? But what I would say, and I mean, I said this to you, I think the last time we spoke about this, right, was that on the other side of things, on let's say the Lightning and what guys are doing on Lightning with the streaming and stuff, right? All of those Nostr things, right, or whatever they are, right, whether it's Nostr platform or whatever kind of platform, most of these guys are storing that music in a private server, or it's somewhere centrally anyway. So I don't think that the whole kind of centralization argument when it comes to, I think you've done actually the best that you could to try and keep things as decentralized as possible. But
I think I've definitely been pandering to it, and I totally agree with you. I think that what needs to happen at this point is is kind of the opposite, and it's like there has to be a relaxing of all this stuff and this like stopping this kind of need for things to be, you know, done in this pure Web3 or no other way kind of attitude, because I think that it's just holding us back from really taking advantage of what we can do here. But yes, I think right from very early on, I just wanted to kind of be able to say, hey, look, I've got this music collection, because I'd done some music stuff on Ordinals, but it hadn't, it wasn't working on ordinals.com. So of course I just kept trying over and over again. And it wasn't until several months later that I went and tried some of this stuff here on Hero, and realized that actually as like data links, as linking data together, whether it's even going to permanent or whether it's going to like my local computer, all of these things could be triggered, could link to an ordinal, just like this one does. You know, it plays the music, it plays a video as well. It's like it's all you know, connected together, I've just tried to do it so that you know, the people like Ord and that they would allow it to be seen by their users, because they have all these things in place. But it's like, what with Nostr, how is that's still another domain, or this is just more of a, because I keep seeing people talking about Nostr and I keep meaning to go and look at it, and that's one thing I haven't actually encountered.
So with Nostr, what I believe is that the platform itself, yeah, and this as far as I understand it, the platform itself is deployed, you know, the platform itself is deployed, let's say, via GitHub, right? Or anyway, you could do it completely open via GitHub or GitLab or any one of those services, right? But when it comes to the media is stored across different, you know, nodes, right? So the media is either it's served, I'd say. I wouldn't even say stored, it's served across different nodes, because just speaking to some guys in you know, like the London kind of that Bitcoin community, right? Like the Bitcoin community, and asking those guys, I tell you who I should get on here, right? I'm going to try and speak to Ben Ark, right, and get him on here, because I asked him this question as well, right? Like, where is the media being stored? It's great that, hey, I can upload a picture of my cat on Nostr, yeah, or I can, you know, upload some of my music into Nostr timeline, right? But where does it get stored? And so far, the only answer that I've heard from every single one of them is it's on a private server, you know, somewhere in the Seychelles, where they can't shut it down, basically. That's the same kind of answer. I'm not saying that's exactly what was said verbatim, but
well, they can't shut it down apart from the person who owns it, who could just decide to.
Right, exactly. So for me, what I'm saying is, like, you know, look, like I've said to you before, Jim, like, I think, you know, like, when you look at the Bitcoin music platforms, right, like, I think that, like, Wavlake is a very good platform, isn't it, right? I never used to like it. I used to hate it, right? And the reason why I didn't used to hate it, but the reason why I never used to like it is because I used to have L1 Bitcoiners saying to me all the time, right, like, hey, you know, we won't use stacks and we won't make NFTs and we won't do all of this other stuff, yeah, but we'll use Wavlake, right? And it was like, but you've got to send them an email to set up a profile, bro. Like, what are you talking about, right? Now, they've improved that vastly. Don't get me wrong. They've improved, like, the whole onboarding process, like, very, very much right now. But it is like, you still, people were, these L1 Bitcoiners that were telling me, okay, well, you know what, like, if it's not Bitcoin only, blah, 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 blah. But I'm like, bro, but hasn't this service that you guys are all saying is the best service since sliced bread? It has, like, the first thing you do as an artist is you approach a centralized point to get onto the actual platform. Like, it just doesn't make any sense to me. Yeah. So I think this argument, as you said, right, and this is why over time, including what you guys are doing with Ordinals, including what I've seen happening, you know, on other chains, even ETH and everything else, right, is that you're going to have some kind of centralized point at any point, right? Even if the artists themselves, right? Let's say we put it right down to artist controls, yeah? Right? An artist can decide if they're going to put their stuff out on Bitcoin on ordinals, right, and make it completely immutable, stuck there forever. No one can't do anything about it, right? Or an artist can decide that, you know what, hey, I want to put this out, but I only want it to be listened to. Like, you know, like my mate, he's got this thing that he does where every now and again he'll just remove stuff off of his SoundCloud. He'll just remove it. It'll be there for like a year, and then he'll just remove it. And he'll be like, yeah, man, like let people get it while it's hot, innit? Right? Like, let people have to search for stuff, innit? Right? Like, don't just put out.
So is that relying on someone to have actually made like a recording of it for it to even exist anymore?
Well, that's what this almost kind of, because what I'm saying is, if you to do this with ordinals, let's look at the ordinals route. Doing it down the ordinals route, which all Maxis or laser-eyed Maxis and purists, hate, right? Yeah, they all hate ordinals. But if a laser-eyed musician now wants to put something out and they want that level of decentralization and permanency, the only way that they can do it is via ordinals at this moment in time. Yeah, right? Any other way of doing it, right, has a centralized point of control. Any other way of doing it at this point in time, right? So what makes me laugh is, like I said, is the way that, like, it's kind of a bit of a hypocrisy.
So, but hang on. So how does that apply to Arweave?
So what I'm saying is, with Arweave, do you know, obviously a lot of people feel, and I know that it's not for that part of it, the storage part, feel that Arweave is still a centralized solution like IPFS, or that we haven't seen enough about Arweave to know that it's definitely a centralized solution.
I mean, it has a domain. That's the one thing, because there is a domain. Right. I'm like, okay, that's a real world. There's a legacy institution that deals with domains, for example. So it's like, okay, there's a relationship that's ongoing there. But in terms of miners, in terms of like the data should be out there enough that the Arweave miners, that it's a bit like Bitcoin. There's a rewards system, and that system is based on all this data, and so that's good. But that's only, again, my experience of all these things isn't very long either. But it's like, it feels to me like what we really need is for Arweave technology to be kind of reimagined back on stacks effectively, so we end up with like a layer 1 that through SBTC is able to interact with the layer 2, and then, sorry, someone's just messaging me saying that the sound is having trouble. I'm just going to quickly do this. Okay, that should be back on there now. Yeah, so sorry, that's thrown me a bit there. What was I saying?
We're saying about like Arweave as a technology, kind of being kind of reimagined.
Oh yes, on stacks. So it would kind of make sense to me there that because this, I guess, is where it should go, because we want that mechanism. Because that is another chain, it's a chain that has its own token. That token is what pays its miners. So when you pay to put your data there, the purse I was talking about last time we spoke, this sort of purse of gold that you give to your data to say, here's the money that you have to pay your way for miners to want to mine you for the rest of time. Here it is, but it's in Arweave token. And so it feels like that's the only disconnect here, is it's a bit like the Bitcoin Ethereum relationship. There's a disconnect there, and it should be that SBTC can trigger stacks, which can then trigger its own layer of mined data. Then I think that would feel like the perfect system, where it's all kind of, it's almost like, so stacks is mined with Bitcoin, and then there's a data layer filled with miners who are mining the data layer with stacks, and so on. And so ultimately, you just create the same thing, but in an environment where it all just literally ties back to Bitcoin, to and fro. A Bitcoin transaction can trigger.
So we have that kind of that full closed loop that goes all the way back around, to Bitcoin. You start with Bitcoin, you end with Bitcoin.
Yeah.
And I mean, look, that is exactly how. And this is why I'm saying that. This is why I just don't get like the wider, or I say the wider, but this is why it's like I don't get the kind of L1 purist narrative when it comes to things like artistic, when it comes to things like music, when it comes to not even just artistic, but just inscriptions themselves. Because, you know, as we found, or if you've obviously been around long enough to know, you would have known already that people were putting, you know, the first ever block mine has data, arbitrary data in it. We could say it's not arbitrary data because, hey, everyone knows Chancellor on Second Brick, and it was a statement, political statement, you know. But let's be honest, right? It's still arbitrary data in Bitcoin. You know, Bitcoin sees it as arbitrary data, doesn't it? Right? So it's like
Bitcoin really doesn't care.
Quite a funny one. Yeah, Bitcoin doesn't really care. Exactly, that's what I'm saying. But you know, here we are, and as you said, like I think these kind of systems are the best systems in the end of the day. And I think even the whole argument, you know, you've heard me say plenty of times that the whole argument between Bitcoin and Ethereum, quite funnily enough, is because Ethereum started off as trying to be the first thing to attempt to create this kind of closed loop where things led back to Bitcoin and kind of ended up teetering off onto its own thing. So, you know, creating that loop, whether it be Stacks, or Liquid, or whatever it is, obviously preferably Stacks, because we're in the Stacks community. We've been building on Stacks for a very long time. SBTC is a great innovation that is coming to Stacks. So being able to loop it back to BTC in the most trustless and efficient manner, I think, is what I'm trying to say.
Proof of transfer was ultimately the biggest revolution of Stacks, and I think proof of transfer in itself was a test case for how to connect in a really sensible way to like the main network, but that could also be passed on to these layers, and that's kind of where I feel is like, mining, using the mining power of Stacks to mine a data network where the same principles are put in place. You get some data, you pay with Stacks, and this data network is set up where your data, algorithmically speaking, is going to be desirable to people in perpetuity to store that data, because the cost of storing data is going to keep going down. The ability to have these servers all around the world is going up. It's never stored in one place. It's kind of like Bitcoin. It's, you know, information that's just mined by all these miners, and all of this data has this, I guess it would be Stacks or potentially a layer 3 token that would be you know, the lifeblood of this network, but the ultimate outcome being that now you have a network whose sole purpose is data storage that doesn't cause all this issues with Bitcoin, with trying to store stuff on Bitcoin nodes. It equally doesn't even put that data stress on Stacks. It just allows Stacks to say, hey, I bought an album, 5 seconds later it was in my wallet, great, don't need Visa anymore, awesome. And then all the data is equally proof of transferred, you know, secured to the smart network. And I think that's how everything will hopefully fall into alignment in that way. But, you know, Arweave is kind of the best option I can feel to sort of say to people, you know, yes, look, this isn't permanent, but it's like, apparently, I think it's guaranteed for 200 years. I mean, I think for most musicians, you know, that'll do. It's just distributing my music. I'm not worried about it. You know, I'm not worried about this CD being indestructible. I don't think we've ever had that with any other medium for transferring these things. So I think if someone says, hey, this will work exactly as it does today for 200 years, you'd feel like you got a pretty good deal with any other medium in music distribution. So it's, you know, I think sometimes it just needs to be put into perspective. You know, what's right and long term versus what is really, really useful for someone who is going to really be, you know, alive for X number of years and wants to run a business, and you know, and there's obviously this dream of passing royalties on to your next of kin and all the rest of it, and that promise is all still there. But you know, really, we need solutions for now as well. We don't need to just be thinking, oh, but what about the person in 300 years when this thing doesn't make a sound anymore? And it's like, well, you know. But yeah, anyway, I think sometimes that you overlook the utility when you get too deep into this stuff, and the utility is there. It's there to be used right now. Yeah.
I mean, you know, a lot of this, to be fair to you both, goes over my head, but you know, ultimately, it's like, before this technology, we were in the hands of others and third parties, and so all of that is just how we've kind of lived with all of our data. You know, it's always been like that. And you know, I think sometimes people digging their heels in say, now that this is here, this is the only way, it kind of creates even more barriers. And actually, you know, I'm sure there will be improved solutions, and people will be able to make their own choices of how decentralized or part decentralized or how they want to do it. But I think kind of rejecting stuff and saying no to stuff because it's not all one way or the other, I think is kind of short-sighted, really, because
it's just going against you know, the principles of evolution. Evolution is all about you know, trial and error, and this is totally how we get there. Anyone who sort of tries to shout down someone for trying to do something, I think, is just going against progression. You know, it's just a really good way of working. And it's a good point. Like you said, there'll be more than one way of doing anything. There'll be millions of ways of doing everything. This is the metaverse way again. Everything should be possible in every possible way in the metaverse.
And then the thing is, yeah, right, we're also still, as you guys are saying there, like, we're still, I was saying this to Resh the other day in Tribal Pill, is that we are still in the experiment. Like I think people sometimes think because they've maybe made whatever they call real money, yeah, out of things, or made some maybe progression. I think that we've on a whole made some progression. I think that everybody kind of feels like we're at the end of the road, or, you know, like we're still in this big, massive experiment that is called, you know, Bitcoin, right? So, you know, everything that spawns from that is still like, you know, all right. So, for instance, we did a coin scrum session at the end of last year on Ethereum, and Vinay Gupta gave a pretty good speech at the end, pretty long speech as well, right? Talking about where all of this kind of encryption and, you know, kind of bids at making encrypted or cryptographic money came from, right? And we're talking like way back in the 70s, yeah, way back in the 70s, right? So if people think that because Bitcoin's come about, that all of a sudden now we're kind of like at the end of things, or because the Ethereum or whatever exists, or Tezos or whatever they're using, we're at the end of things. This is the finality of things. This is the end. No, like there's like so much more experimentation to be done. So it's kind of all about what you feel comfortable with, as you said, and that's what this whole space is about. Like, what do you want to do? For me personally, I didn't want to start dabbling back into music until I'd pretty much established something within the crypto space, and going back into it now, like starting with Bitcoin, for me, that's for me personally is the right feeling, you know. And it's just where I personally want to start, but that doesn't stop anybody else from, you know, going to whichever chain or trying whichever mechanism to actually get their thing started, or to basically, you know, put out different collections. There's always that's the other thing as well, putting out like different collections. You know, it's not like you're ever going to create one piece of music and that's it. Like, you're going to create like lots of different music. You can put it out in lots of different places and see what's happening, you know. Like, I remember when MTV and VH1 never used to play hip hop, like, and it still managed to become the world's #1 selling genre. So, you know, like, yeah, you know, you can start anywhere and just build.
I've still got recordings of Yo MTV raps on videotape, that is. I think it's, you know, when you think about the internet, and, you know, it's really hard not to kind of it's the ultimate technology, isn't it, really, the internet, until kind of the blockchain technology came along. And I think, even 10 years ago, that's what we were going to seminars and they were kind of saying, this is the new internet. And, it was kind of hard to grasp, but it is, it's kind of like...
We were like the two guys in the room who just sat there trying to look like we knew what anyone was talking about.
Yeah, but to be fair, like when I heard people talking about, voting on the blockchain and having, I remember that whole speech about having law in the blockchain. So like whatever the law was sat in the blockchain, and then you'd kind of data input the kind of facts of the case, and then it would pump out, the blockchain could deliver the kind of the whatever the result may be, but all these things that they were kind of using as like potential ways of blockchain technology, it's like it was kind of mind-blowing back then, and it's still mind-blowing now, but we're 10 years on and there's been so much innovation, but yet there's still such a big gap before it's just something that everyone uses without even knowing they use it. And I think we all know we're going to get there. It's like it's going to happen. If you think, we've all been through this kind of age of like not having smartphones, not having computers at home, and seeing that kind of journey where you get this kind of like breakthrough moments, certain things happen that then opens the door to a lot more people, and then it kind of slows down and almost goes away, or you forget about it, and then something else happens, and then it's like all these bits are just kind of innovation that then removes barriers to entry, and slowly but surely people just kind of get used to it and start using it a little bit, and then it just becomes a part of everyday life. And I think this will happen for everyone in all aspects of life. I think with blockchain technology, whether you know it or not, it will be there. And I think for musicians it's the same, but at the moment it's still a lot of friction, and there's still a lot of education needed in order for people to see it as just an extra way of doing something, and potentially a more interesting way, or a way that you can get more value for your fan base and more value for your creativity and your art.
Well said. Beautiful. Well, I think we've gone a little over an hour now. I really wanted to go a bit more into the album stuff, but we've just got so much interesting stuff to cover, so maybe we can carry on with this another time. But I was think unless any of you guys have got anything you really want to bring up now, I might wrap it up shortly.
Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely happy for that. I mean, I will just say, if it's okay, and I don't know if there's any listeners out there that are part of the number one community, and I think there's a lot of things that we have been putting together over the last few years, and behind the scenes we are always working on all of these things, and the album being exactly one of those things where a great deal of time and effort has gone into kind of pulling something really special together. And sometimes the nature of the technology, the timing, crypto, various different things, like it doesn't always it's not always in our control to kind of be able to deliver it in the way that we want, that is kind of beneficial to everyone involved. And that kind of same applies to kind of everything we've been working on. But I think this year is going to be quite a special one. I think there was a lot of, I think the three of us have spoken enough times over the last year to understand each other's challenges with working in a Bitcoin layer 2 and stacks, and everything that was going on there, and everything that was great and exciting and brilliant about ordinals. It also took away from a lot of the effort and time and things that we'd been building. So now it just feels like there is a really kind of big light at the end of the tunnel, where we can start utilizing all of the good things from everything that we've done, connecting the dots, using different chains and technologies to really bring a lot of these things back to life again. And so for a lot of our number one people, there's a lot coming out this year, and so just kind of stay tuned on everything that we're working on.
Absolutely well said, sir.
Brilliant. Anything else, Nat?
I mean, from my side, I'm just excited to
to always obviously see what you guys are doing, because I'm involved in a lot of obviously with this one, obviously, you know, more from a working perspective, but with the other collections, you know, like I have a piece here and a piece there from different collections, and obviously the narcotics universe. Every single time I go back in there, you guys have done something else with it, right? And like, I started mixing some of the elements and stuff like that, right? And then I was like, oh yeah, right, I've got to farm these. So you know, like you start mixing everything, and then it's like, no. I've got to wait. I've got to like save some of these so that I can farm for other stuff, right? So yeah. I mean, I'm really excited to see everything this year that is going on in the whole entire space. I think, not just in the Bitcoin space, but what you guys are doing, I'm always very interested in, because you guys like to be a bit like me and have a bit of cryptic and mystery going on with what you're doing, and I always love that. As I said, like, you know, like putting up albums on SoundCloud and then just taking them off after a year. Like, you know, they've got like 1,000 streams. It's like, bye, and just take it away.
It's like there's a couple of recordings. There's a couple of recordings out there, aren't there, that are like super rare because they're like things that happened on radio that were never played again, and no one knows what they are and stuff. And so I kind of get
exactly
like, kind of create your own mystery. Although I think, you know, sometimes it's a lot of fun and it can make you a legend, but in the short term, it's not the best marketing plan. But it's definitely something that generates intrigue over time. But yeah, if you play too mysterious and don't big yourself up enough in this game, sometimes it's
yeah, it can hinder you. It's a longer journey, but we enjoy the graft.
Yeah,
absolutely. Oh, it's
cool.
good to catch up. Good to chat, Jim, as always, and Matt. Really nice to catch up with you. We will catch up again soon for sure.
Yeah, thanks both for joining me, and yeah, we'll do it again sometime soon. And yeah, thank you.
Cool. Cheers.
Take it easy, guys.
And then I will just go on to play this here, which I'm just very happy about. There's been one of the guys in the Discord, or someone contacted me through Twitter. You know, I've just decided to just stick this in here, so I haven't actually got. I should get their page up. I'll say it next week. But there was a group. He wrote a little piece on the sequencer, and sort of sent me the file and said, "Can you make a video so I can play it to our group on Twitter?" And it was just a really nice. It's really amazing to have someone who has gone through the effort of cutting together some samples using the sequencer, and they have created this little song, which I'm really pleased to be able to play something that's not something that I've sort of rinsed that's on chain, or the one song I've written using the sequencer. But yeah, have a listen. I really like this. I'm looking forward to hearing more. I think when they posted it on their group, I saw a lot of people in their community jumping in and going, "Oh, this is awesome, we want to use this." So yeah, I'm looking forward to more people coming up with more of their own compositions, because we can very quickly inscribe these compositions as very, very small little files that you know, are genuinely on-chain audio inscribed on chains, and none of this kind of cross-chain problems with this style anyway, even though it's very restrictive in the way it works, recursively using audio that kind of exists on chain already. But yeah, have a listen anyway, and probably at this I'll say goodbye, and we'll be back next week for more on-chain music chats. So cheers. Oh, I didn't unmute it. I think I've got to unmute that in here. I muted this channel because all these text messages were pinging. Let's see if this works now. No. Maybe I have to reconnect. see. It should. Maybe that's going through there. Let's try this. Did I break it? Maybe I broke it. Load from JSON. Load this guy. Open. No sound. Okay, let's quickly try a quick reset in here. So, sorry about this. Hope it'll be worth it. Okay, try one more time. Hit play. Nada. Okay, so that's just not gonna play. I'll try and shut the browser down and come back in. Let's try. Reopen the browser. Oh, it's so complicated doing this stuff. In fact, today it's the first time in I don't know how many shows I've done now. I think I did 5 or 6 of the previous show, and then we rebranded. So I mean, this must be 15, 16 in total, but 10 or 11 of this show, and only this is the first time when I've been able to have guests in Discord that could hear the music that I was or was not, as may be the case, playing. And yeah, anyway, the audio problems that have plagued me from the start have been partially fixed. I think we've had a number of dropouts in this show potentially. That's just my laptop that can't cope with the load of all these different kind of windows that I've got open to try. So they're still not working, is it? Oh, that's a shame. Oh, hang on, that's why. It's because I've got the wrong channel muted, I think. Let's try that again. Is that? Oh, I think someone's talking to me in Discord there. Hang on, let me see if I can turn you up there. Someone's saying something.
We were.
Yeah. Were you trying to tell me something then?
I was just saying it's.
Yeah, I was saying
I'm here.
Saying what?
I was saying it's probably just because I'm here. Me and technology.
You are like a technical. Yeah, you're like some sort of tech vampire.
I was saying,
like if anyone could actually break the internet, it would be Dash.
I was saying it's like that Dave Chappelle meme, you know, gotcha, bitch. Just like right at the last minute where we thought everything was fine.
Yeah, I just can't. It's just. I think everything. It's given up. It's not letting me play any audio from my browser now. I think. Yeah, OBS is just saying I've had enough. I think the show's over now. I think you've done enough. I think you've said enough, and I don't think anyone is interested in anything else you have to say, so I'm just not going to turn the sound on for the browser because it's just saying no. Just won't connect, so I can't actually play any music to see us out. So it's going to be one of those really sad, kind of quiet. Oh, actually, let's see if this one works. Maybe if VLC works. It's not going to work though, is it? Because it's the same audio. Let's see.
Might have to be someone might have to do a freestyle or something.
Oh yeah, it's just going to say, yeah, that's not working either. It's just going to say you need to do a full reset. Okay, well, thanks everyone. We'll just fade out from here. So thanks a lot, and See you all next week. Bye.
Take it easy, guys. Get that Back to the Future fade.